for Sheila and Austin.
All right, Tom, thanks very much. It is senior day here in Austin, but so far it's been a tight one between Texas and Baylor. Number 11 on the road, an in-state matchup. Nooney Amat straight away. That's off the mark. And so far, Fran, this has been the big men for both teams, establishing early how important they're going to be. Jared Allen off to a great start for the Horns. Number 31 in white and orange, the freshman. He scored 7 of the first 10 that Texas has on the board.
Yeah, but he's got to continue to get the ball more.
Instead, it's a takeaway by King McClure. Blocked, though, from behind by Eric Davis. A foul call. That will put McClure at the line. It's a 2-point lead for Texas. A game that if Texas can win would absolutely affect how the Big 12 championship shakes up this week in Kansas City. Baylor at 11-6 trying to get.
What happens, Bob, is one look at a player who's going up against a guy who also may be an NBA prospect is better than 5 looks at that player against non-NBA prospects. So you can evaluate both of them today. And we have general managers here like Garth Foreman, some others. Danny Ferry's in the building, Trajan Langdon. So should be fun, and both of them have played well early.
King McClure makes it a 1-point game. And here comes some pressure from Baylor as they will pick up full court. And this was something we watched Texas work against today in their shoot-around this morning. They knew that at least this token pressure was coming and how they wanted their sophomore guards to handle it. And right now they've got 2 freshmen out there handling it, Jacob Young and Andrew Jones. And Yancey fades away, comes up short.
Woodsy, the sophomore at 6'5", has really become a nice contributor for this team.
Now Freeman for 3. Comes up short, and a one-arm rebound yanked down by Shaq Blair. Yancey again. This time the runner rolls off the rim. Another rebound for Motley. Motley one-on-one against Claire. Grabs the offensive rebound and is able to stick up and in his own miss.
Tell you what, it was a terrific move from the perimeter in. He missed a shot, great look, and good hustle.
Claire right over the top of Motley. The second time his jump hook has beaten Motley down on the blocks.
And it's important for Texas to continue to feed Allen and Claire inside. That's their best offensive weaponry, especially over the last couple of games.
Motley through a double team. And Claire is able to pull it down.
Well, Allen's open. Got to get it to him.
Jones does find him. The kick out into the corner. 3 on the way. Off for Yancey.
Really good look by Jared Allen. Ran the floor. They found him. Good kick out. Very unselfish Baylor team. Remember, they got no preseason top 25 votes. And they took them 9 weeks, Bob, to climb to number 1.
Motley with the shot clock at 5. Goes right at Claire. Off the window, just barely missing the fingertips of Jared Allen, who was way above the rim trying to block that shot.
He had to deal with the girth of Claire and the length of Allen. Able to put it home. Really well done. Soft touch. Got to throw it in there.
Claire will come out to the elbow now as he had Motley pinned deep before that. Motley got a piece of that shot, but there's Claire. Backdoor offensive rebound and the putback.
Bob, anytime you see zone, you cannot play from the perimeter in and rely on jump shots. You must attack the zone in the paint, and that's where Texas has had a lot of success so far.
Amat off the mark. Claire another rebound.
Claire's doing a really good job, but I think he's going to get a blow soon.
Allen finds Claire. Lost it. He takes it away.
Yeah, you can see Claire's wavering right now. He'll come out soon. But he's done a good job so far.
McClure, the floater. Claire down to the deck hard. And he and McClure both a little slow to get up. Well, tonight at 8:15 Eastern on ESPN, number 17 Duke in the Dean Dome as North Carolina looks for some revenge. What better way to close out the ACC regular season than with a sonic blockbuster, also seen streaming live on the ESPN app. And watch ESPN. Of course, Duke won a thriller at Cameron back on February 9th. Fran, how important is this game tonight, especially for North Carolina, to get a win against Duke as they head toward the ACC championship and also the NCAA tournament?
Well, they're already going to be the #1 seed, Bob, and they've already got a share of the title, so they're good there. They've managed to be successful on the long term.
Good read by Roach, but a takeaway by Wendell Mitchell. Off to Motley, and he is fouled. We'll talk a lot more about Duke, North Carolina as we head through the afternoon. Big one tonight, an important game today here for Baylor, as we'll talk Big 12 championship as well when we come back to Austin.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball.
9 assists, 1 turnover. That's more than triple the second place assist turnover ratio guy, Devontae Graham. 3 times better assist turnover rate than the second best player on that list, who, as we know, Devontae Graham is a terrific player. What a season for Monte Morris at Iowa State, and what a career. Remember, he's got 2 Big 12 titles in his back pocket already as the Cyclones go to Kansas City.
Offensive rebound, Ish Wainwright. He sets up Chucky Mitchell, who knocks down a 3.
Yep.
And that puts Baylor on top.
Why not? Chucky Mitchell scored 3,000 points at Rockdale High School, right down the road, south of Waco. Redshirted a year ago, only a freshman. Scott Drew loves to redshirt guys who don't think are going to play that much early. Guy like Motley redshirted. Look what it's done for him.
Floater comes up short for Kerwin Roach. And he'll stay with Texas. Looked like that ball hit the rim. Only 6 on the shot clock. Should the shot clock have been reset?
Oh, Roger.
It looks like the officials may have to get together and get that corrected.
Yeah, Roderick Dixon, I thought, was going to go take a look at it, and they are going to reset it. Good eyes, Bob.
What needs to happen when the ball hits the rim? I believe that's the rule. Let's go. Most of the games I've watched, it seems like when the ball hits the rim, they reset the clock.
Well, they do in the Big 12. I don't know about some of the other leagues.
So you mentioned as we head toward the Big 12 championship, the way that Oklahoma State's playing, Iowa State, even West Virginia, getting that win over Iowa State last night, the odd Friday night matchup. And West Virginia often slips into their schedule. But Kerwin Roach sends it out to Young.
Yeah, I got an interesting observation about the rest of the league.
That floater is good for Jared Allen.
Listen, everybody thinks West Virginia, Baylor, Iowa State, they struggled at times. These teams dominated in the non-conference. Baylor has 4 top 10 wins. The fact that you might hit a little bump in the road in conference play only speaks to how good this conference has been.
Mitchell banks it in. Back-to-back threes for Chuck Mitchell.
Think about it. Baylor's 24-6. Weren't ranked before the start of the year. West Virginia lost a couple games in conference play. I think the amazing story is the bottom of the league has had so many heartbreaking losses that they've cannibalized some of those NCAA spots.
Traveling called on Roach. We're going to talk to Joe Lunardi later on in our broadcast in the second half, and I'll be interested to see what he thinks Kansas State did for themselves with their win today against Texas Tech, getting to 8-10 in a league that all year has been towards the top of the RPI and the top of our BPI as well. They're the 6th seed going into the Big 12 championship. Where are they in terms of the bubble?
You know what? They are a good basketball team who's had some hard luck. I think Bruce Weber's done a good job with this team. He's got a lot of good pieces back.
Put back by Lawal Achiwil won't go, but the tip follow is good for Motley.
See, that's what you like about Motley. He's got a high motor, and he's always going hard. You made a great point during the timeout, Bob, when we went to break about Shaq Claire scoring over him. He doesn't have great length for the NBA, but he does have a really good motor. You see the agility right there to get the tip. Right now he's slotted between 20 and 35 on a lot of NBA team boards. Most of the teams have not finalized their boards, by the way. They're meeting now initially. Nobody knows who's going to go where.
Allen.
How about that? I'll tell you, now you talk about a guy that keeps improving. Jared Allen is a different player than he was at the start of this season.
Allen takes it away from Motley. A wing player hasn't scored yet for Texas, and Kerwin Roach throws it into the third row. Claire and Allen have combined for all 18 Texas points. They haven't gotten one perimeter bucket yet.
And that's good news. Good news, because as I mentioned at Texas Tech the other night, they went 12 for 15. And watch this soft touch here by Jared Allen. This is part of that package, along with the size and length, that you really like about this young man. Almost hit his first three the other night. Toe was on the line.
In double figures for the 10th consecutive game already, and we're barely past the midway point of the first half. While Achuil finds Wainwright, who gives it up to him, and he is met by Jared Allen.
I hate to say this if you're a Texas fan, but cha-ching.
An air ball thrown up by Young, and that's the only thing that can quiet the crowd down. Still reacting to the block shot of Jared Allen.
I'll tell you, assistant coach Darren Horn, you think about last year, Bob, with Prince eBay, right? Cam Ridley, who got hurt, now Claire and Allen, former Kentucky head coach in charge of the big man. He's done a terrific job with these guys.
Lindsey rolls home a three. His 18th made three this season. He only made 4 all of last season as a freshman.
He spent a lot of time in the offseason working on that shot. His dad, Dennis, was a much better shooter at Baylor, now the GM of the Jazz, but I don't know. Jake might be catching up. More versatile player than his dad, in my opinion.
Now Lindsey's got the rebound.
His dad may not understand that. It is his son.
Dads usually are more than happy to admit their sons are better than they are. Baylor's got the 7-point lead, but it was Jared Allen in the last highlight.
Exciting to watch young kids improve. Take a look. Remember the dunk of the year? I don't know if this is the block of the year, but it's pretty darn good. And what a timely time to do it. He might make money.
He's awfully comfortable out there. So it's back and forth right now. The Pirates up by 1. It's tight. Bob, back to you.
All right, Adnan, thanks very much. 7-point lead here for Baylor in Austin.
Yeah, big win for Vandy today, Bob, over Florida. Luke Cornett, their 7'1" center, has made the most three-pointers for any 7-footer in NCAA history. Congrats to him. How about this kid?
Jared Allen keeps it rolling.
Yep.
He's got 12.
It's a confidence thing, too, Bob. He played in a very, hate to say it, the competition in the high school league he played in was not very good.
You can say it.
Yeah. And the confidence level is what you've seen over the course of his freshman year.
Pick and roll. Comes up empty for Baylor as Motley's behind the play.
Look inside.
Jones finds the trailer, but traveled before he was able to hand it off to Kendall Yancey.
Well, we've seen Andrew Jones have some moments of brilliance this year. The game winner against Oklahoma. He's a young man that has been in the mock drafts. He needs to come back. That's pretty clear. But he's going to be a good player.
What's the breaking point for you if you were advising an Andrew Jones? You need to be projected to be drafted where to come out?
Well, in the first round.
At the very least?
At the very least, yeah. And, you know, he just doesn't have the cerebralness yet.
Wainwright hits a three.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a point guard. He's a streaky shooter. But he's a freshman. See, that's the thing. We talk about, you know, Denzel Valentine, Buddy Hield, you know, Dylan Brooks at Oregon this year. It's a process, you know. Not everybody's one and done.
Traveling calls. As Allen turns it over. Hey, how about Jonathan Motley? I mean, Motley is not only a junior, he could conceivably come back for another season. He is a redshirt junior.
Exactly.
He played a year as a backup back in 2013, 2014, where he added 20 pounds to his frame, and he still looks like a player that could afford to bulk up to play at the next level as Wainwright turns it over in the backcourt.
One of the great things about Baylor's success under Scott Drew has been the way they develop players, and particularly big men. So to your point about Motley, how about going against Rico Gathers, Torian Prince, and Isaiah Austin every day? And before that, it was Corey Jefferson. And before that, it was Perry Jones and Anthony Jones and Quincy Miller. And Quincy Acey, who's still in the NBA with the Brooklyn Nets. And very few of those guys have been, you know, a couple All-Americans thrown in there, Bob, but mostly guys who developed, and that's what Motley's done. And next year we'll see Nuni Omot, and we'll see Joe Ruala-Chuel continue to improve like Motley has.
Ruala-Chuel goes to the bench with a second foul. Talking to Scott Drew before the game, he mentioned, as McClure gets a steal, and cruises in for two, he mentioned Ruala-Chuel's development having mostly to do with the fact that he's going up against Jonathan Motley every day in practice.
Exactly. It's a pretty good formula, right?
Nice backdoor. Yancey is able to lay it in.
Good look by Andrew Jones that time. And that's one of those areas I think that he can continue to improve. The decision-making, you just love a lot of things about him. He's just not ready.
The first basket by a perimeter player for Texas. McClure lays it in.
Yeah, this young man, not only was he an outstanding player at AAA Academy in Dallas, school valedictorian. Guess it helps if your dad's the principal, but still.
Well, it also put the pressure on to get the grades.
Absolutely, and if you know the family, you know they're serious about their grades. I like that.
Claire thought he was fouled. Motley ends up with the rebound.
Shaq Claire has been a good leader for this young Longhorn team. The transfer from Maryland.
Amat hits a three. Timeout called by Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart. Quality time with Don Daly, thinking that they missed a foul at the other end on Claire. We're back in 30 seconds. Only 8 miles separate these two teams, of course, on Tobacco Road. Is this the best rivalry, not just in college basketball, but maybe in college sports?
Well, it might be the best rivalry in sports. I mean, what do you got? Yankees, Red Sox, right? When they're at their best, very similar.
Rangers, Islanders?
Yeah, the old days.
Local?
Yeah, that's too local.
That's what I thought.
Yep. I mean, think about it. I think it's as good a rivalry as there is in all sports. And you know why? Sustained success over the last 50 years.
Yep.
How about this? Want to hear a crazy stat? They have won 26%. Both teams have won 26% of the NCAA championships in the last 34 years. They have 9 NCAA championships between them. Is that not sustained success?
And came this close to picking up another one last season had it not been for a big-time shot by a man named Jenkins.
How about that? You got Hall of Fame coaches. You got, 8 miles away.
Jack Claire, offensive foul. Motley stood his ground, and that time got bowled over, but got the call.
I like the idea that Claire went inside again because he thought he got fouled earlier. And this is good, except Motley's very smart. As soon as he handles the bump, he falls back. Good call. And unfortunately for Shaq Claire, he's going to have to sit down now, but he's been really effective. And Bob, I mentioned this. Transfer from Maryland. He's from the Bahamas, went to high school in Houston. And a kid who has become on a young team, and this is one of the 10 youngest teams in the country. He's been a very good senior leader, Shaq Claire.
Shot clock down to 5.
Does he know it?
I think McClure realizes it. He'll drive. And with the left hand, able to finish again, add to a 15-point lead.
Nice.
Coast to coast. Allen with the finish on the Andrew Jones layup attempt.
What you love about what Jared Allen just did was he sprinted end to end and came up with the loose change. And in the NBA, Bob, someday they're not going to run a lot of plays for him. He's going to have to do it with energy, and a good example right there.
Baylor with a 13-point lead, but we have seen Jared Allen look like the player that drew all this. There are 10 teams of the Big 12. 5 are in. We know that. Kansas, West Virginia, Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. There are 3 or 4, I should say, that are definitely out. We've got 1 team that's on the bubble, and it's Kansas State.
You and I will not do that game, but I will be courtside on Thursday when Kansas State plays either Baylor or Iowa State. Because if I'm Bruce Weber's team right now, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get ready to win that game. Because I believe a win in that 3-6 game will put Kansas State in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, we'll see what Joe Lunardi thinks about that in the second half. But to me, that's a very interesting scenario. It's almost for Kansas State as if they're playing a quote-unquote Game 7 in their opening round matchup in the Big 12 championship.
You know, and Kansas State will be under 500. But in this league this year, they still, with a win, Bob, in the tournament, they still, I believe, will deserve to get in. That is a good basketball team.
Well, there's our note. Since 1995, 3 times a Big 12 team has made the field despite being below 500 in conference play. All 3 of those teams were 8-10, and that's exactly where Kansas State ends up with their win against Texas Tech today. They're an 8-10 Big 12 team. Kansas Motley, by the way, picking up his second foul, sits down.
Kansas State went to Baylor and won. Kansas State beat West Virginia at home as well. They have some quality wins, and it's a good basketball team. Just had some hard luck. Boy, they are really bothering Texas with those entry passes. How about getting this done today without Manu Khan?
Allen, nice post move. Too strong with the left hand, though. And then a foul called. And it looks like that will go against James Banks tonight. It's NBA Saturday primetime on ABC. CP3 and the Clippers against Jimmy Butler and the Bulls. Our coverage tips with NBA Countdown at 8 Eastern on ABC, as well as streaming live on the ESPN app. And watch ESPN. The biggest games of the season with the biggest stars of the NBA every Saturday night.
I communicated this week with former Iowa State coach Freddie Hoiberg, who's now coaching the Bulls, and said he's very optimistic about the Cyclones' chances, and certainly that senior class was one he put together. Chucky Mitchell.
That's his 3rd 3 here in the first half.
And he's getting the opportunity because of LeConte sitting down. And Bob, the beat goes on with Baylor. They're going to lose seniors and guys early to the draft, but they've got guys ready to replace them.
Jacob Young answers. That's the first made 3 for Texas. They are 1 for 6 behind the arc. Baylor is 6 for 10.
And I got a chance to see Jacob Young's career high the other night in Lubbock. He was terrific.
Wainwright.
Too strong.
Way too strong. So strong, in fact, that James Banks couldn't hold on to the rebound as it ended up on top of him a lot faster than he anticipated off the carom. And you can see later on, after we're done here in Austin, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Stillwater.
I'll tell you what, I got to think Gallagher-Iba will be rocking and rolling. It's never been an easy place for Bill Self to go home to, his alma mater. Both of those teams really only playing for pride right now. And I'll tell you, our guy Juwan Evans is playing as well as Mason and Morris. I don't know if you saw him the other night at Iowa State. He was unbelievable, Juwan Evans.
Jared Allen, offensive rebound, helped out by James Banks, putting in effort to crash the offensive glass as well. So Texas trying to hang in against Baylor here in the first half, as Allen will go to the line.
That was an Inspector Gadget rebound right there.
I want to hear why.
That was an elastic rebound right there. That was a rubber man, a Gumby rebound. Watch this, Bob. Take a look at this. This is 7'5" right here. Look at this. Good effort. Remember early in the year we charted his offensive rebounds attempted and how much more aggressive he's gotten? How about the shooting time?
Shaka Smart made mention of the fact that the last time these two teams met, Motley put up that 32-20 game against Jared Allen, at least in part, and he challenged Jared Allen to respond to that. Allen came out with that monster game against Kansas in their very next outing.
Exactly, 22-19 as a matter of fact, at Allen Fieldhouse.
So he liked that response.
He did.
That he took the coaching, took the challenge, and took it on the floor the next time out. Here's Mitchell, this time driving it. Slips one to the corner, intended for Wainwright. It's a turnover for Baylor and a chance for Texas with Jonathan Motley on the bench with 2 fouls to make this a single-digit game.
Right now, 4 freshmen on the floor for Texas. Kendall Yancey, the senior, has played in over 100 games.
Here comes a senior, Mo Isom. As it looks like he will replace one of those freshmen. James Banks will sit down.
Yep. Now Isom is a shooter, which little platooning here. The length and shot blocking ability of Banks, the freshman. And Mo Isom, the Little Rock transfer, who can shoot the 3 with his size.
Jones, an errant pass, but Kendall Yancey tracks it down. Isom turns it over. Good hands by Wainwright. Mitchell, that's blocked by Young. Or check that, Jones. Shot clock turned off, so Baylor can hold for the final shot of the half. Good block by Andrew Jones, and a timeout will be called by Scott Drew, calling the timeout you can't take with you to the second half to draw up this final play here at the end of the first half. Bob Wischusen, Fran Fraschilla here in Austin. A Baylor team, you mentioned that it might be a little misleading that they struggled of late. They have lost 3 of their last 5, 5 of their last 9. Having said that, though, the last win that they got, Scott Drew told us before the game, he thought was really important to play as well as they did against West Virginia.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, they played 3 games without Al Freeman. They've had some other injuries, no TJ Maston today. But when you look at what they have accomplished, there's a reason right now they are projected 2 seed by Joe Lunardi. They have monster wins, the 9 wins over the top 50. And look at the worst losses at Texas Tech, where they've been a house of horrors for a number of teams this year. This has been, in my mind, an overachieving Baylor team based on where we all expected them before the season. And remember this, Scott Drew has taken 2 of these teams to the Elite 8 in the last 7 years.
Is this team good enough to get there?
They are. They absolutely are. They are like a lot of teams in the top 10 or 12 that have flaws. They have strengths too.
Lindsay dribbling the clock down. 7 seconds to go in the half. Gets the screen from Lawal Achuia. 4 seconds to go. Lindsay will drive it, scoop it. The follow won't go for Motley. He thought he might have drawn a foul. And it will be an 11-point lead that Baylor will have to settle for at halftime as Motley picked up 2 fouls. Jared Allen looked terrific as well. And Baylor on the road trying to close out the regular season of the Big 12 with a win.
Foul trouble, but he's been solid as well.
Jared Allen, 16 points, 5 rebounds, and he is really the lone factor as to why Texas is hanging in the game. Bob Wischusen and Fran Fraschilla just about set for the start of the second half. And how about this response from Baylor, again, without Manu LeConte, found a way to win against West Virginia without their point guard. Now they close out the regular season on the road with a solid first half without LeConte.
This is a good program, so when you lose a guy, someone else steps up. And look at the guard play today from Lindsay, McClure, Chucky Mitchell. Really solid. Al Freeman hasn't really even contributed much, and he's been a starter much of the year.
Manu LeConte with the sprained ankle that he tweaked, basically re-aggravated it against Iowa State. And if this were a must-win, if this was an Elite 8 game today in the NCAA tournament, he would probably be out there. He went through pregame warm-up, so it bodes well for his hopeful return for Baylor for the Big 12 championship and also the NCAA tournament. But I would think you would want to go into the end of February and March with all of your best players healthy on the floor and playing just to maintain team chemistry. Even if you are winning games, maybe there's a little bit of an adjustment when LeConte gets back on the floors. Kendall Yancey starts off the second half with a finger roll.
Bigger fish to fry for the Baylor Bears than a regular season finale. That's for sure.
Lindsay sets up Motley. Blocked by Allen.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Now, that first meeting between the two, Motley had his way inside, and watch this recovery by Jared Allen. Stays vertical, and that's the one thing that Jonathan Motley, when he gets to the NBA level, will have some struggles with, and that is length. Just again, we're not talking about the Big 12. We're talking about the NBA, the association.
Shot clock to 4 as Jake Lindsay realizes it. King McClure does. That's well short. That'll be a shot clock violation in spite of the fact that it was out of bounds off of Motley.
King McClure said the reason that ball, I shot a 23-footer, the reason it went 18 feet is because he hit my arm.
King McClure and Joe Lawala-Chuil both overcoming heart conditions to get on the floor this year for Baylor. Great stories, each in their own right.
Texas's defense this year, Bob, has not been bad at all. They've been around 28 or 29 or 30 all year.
Lawala-Chuil doesn't get the roll. Offensive rebound, Motley. This is on miss once again. Fades away. That's a little too strong. Lawala-Chuil blocked by Claire, but a foul call on Shaq Claire. That'll be his third.
Excellent effort that time by both big men. You see the running hook by Joe Achuil, and then Motley just stays with it. Out of that issue for Motley again is that length.
Baylor is number 6 in America in rebounding margin. On average, they out-rebound their opponents by 8.6 boards per game. Motley and 12th leg gets even more lopsided. They out-rebound teams in conference, and there's Wainwright keeping it alive on the offensive glass. They out-rebound Big 12 opponents by 9.1 boards per game.
Yeah, the numbers I like. I like the analytics. I like the fact that they're getting 39% of their misses back, almost half of their missed shots. And the national average is somewhere around 29%, Bob. So that's an enormous number, as you point out.
Motley. Rebound to Allen.
Motley's had some point-blank looks.
Clock issue as the shot clock and game clock both froze. So it's Roderick Dixon back over at the scorer's table to get this ironed out. A little over 2 minutes gone by in the second half. Baylor on top by 7. And now it's time for our meaningful returns, brought to you by TD Ameritrade. And Jared Allen, he's impressing the NBA scouts that are here to see him today.
No doubt about it. What you love about him is the youth, the age, the length, the size, the fact that he's improving game by game. And while we've been excited about him today, Bob, for obvious reasons, you're looking at a young man whose best basketball is years down the road. 19-year-old freshman out of Austin.
5 to shoot. Andrew Jones lobs it to Allen, and he's able, in one smooth motion, to drop it in and get to 20 on the game.
What you love about him is the efficiency.
Timeout called by Scott Drew. It was a 16-point Baylor lead. Texas has cut it all the way down to 5. Jared Allen, his 4th 20-point game this season already.
Tomorrow it's time to stand. Catch all the action on
5. And the first time today that Scott Drew actually had to call a timeout to try and stabilize the game and get his team calmed down.
Yeah, and I think what you have is you have the efficiency of Jared Allen. And Jonathan Motley has missed some shots he normally does not miss. He struggled a little bit today by his standards. He still has 9 and 9.
Motley turns the corner. Fouled on the floor on the drive. And the foul will go against the freshman James Banks.
Nice set play by Scott Drew coming out. And you saw a guy 6'10", Bob, playing on the perimeter and getting to the basket fairly effortlessly.
That was Banks' second foul. Lindsay looking for Motley again. This time he connects as Banks took the bump. But Motley kept his eyes on the rim.
Motley's got 11. He could easily end up with 25 before you know it. But give Texas credit. They've slowed him down today.
It'll stay with Texas with 13 to shoot.
Jared Allen, St. Stephen's Episcopal School right here in Austin. Outstanding student, a 3.9 student his first semester. Multiple interests, very bright young man, and obviously the proof is on the court as to how much he's improved on the basketball court.
Jones in and out for three. Motley against Allen. This is the matchup that the scouts came to see. Motley can't win it. Hit the side of the backboard. Allen saves it right to Motley. That bank shot won't go, and Banks pulls it down for Texas.
Yeah, Banks lanes bothered Motley right there.
Allen, air ball. Wainwright, that's a little too strong. Offensive rebound and a chance for a three-point play for Jonathan Motley.
Well, watch Wainwright. He's going to attack Allen. And when he attacks Allen, he takes Allen out of the play. And the miss opens it up for Motley. Take a look. Here's the drive. Ish Wainwright's going to come up empty, but that's okay because there's no resistance now for Jonathan Motley. Gets it done inside.
ESPNU, the Wednesday night doubleheader. TCU, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, and Texas. The only thing that is still at issue is dependent upon the outcome of our game today. If Baylor wins, they replace Iowa State as the 3 seed. The Cyclones drop down to the 4 seed, and they end up in Kansas's half of the bracket. But, Fran, if Texas can pull off a comeback, it would be Iowa State that would stay put as the 3 seed, and Baylor would be potentially forced to play Kansas in the semifinals.
Steve Prohm and his Cyclones are rooting for the Longhorns right now. No doubt about that.
Leaning in Yancey. And Banks hustle to the offensive glass. It looks like caused a foul on Lawal Achuil.
I thought he was shooting. I mean, how is he not shooting if he... Shaka Smart wants to know the same thing. Looks like he got the rebound, was in the act.
Third foul on Lawal Achuil. So he will go to the bench.
Shaka, Don Daly's not going to look at Shaka Smart, but I kind of agree with Shaka on that. James Banks, the freshman out of Decatur, Georgia, who was part of that USA gold medal under 18 FIBA America's title team with Markelle Fultz, likely the #1 pick. Jared Allen as well.
Andrew Jones hits a three.
Good look by James Banks. Good inside out. That's what we need. When you attack a zone, you don't attack it from the outside in. You get it to the paint, and then you play from there. Nice job by the freshman Banks.
First points of the game for Andrew Jones, who averages just over 11 per game.
Yeah, that was a good rhythm three by Jones as well.
Motley tries a triple. Allen saves it. Here comes Kerwin Roach. Banks. Arcing shot won't go. And back the other way, Al Freeman.
Motley does a great job of running the floor and trying to get established early.
Freeman tied up by Roach. Texas basketball. They've got the arrow.
Not a lot of room for Al Freeman on that drive. A lot of bodies, congestion. Take a look. This looks like Interstate 35 right outside the Irwin Center. Any time of day, morning, noon, night. It's a nightmare, Bob. You got to stay on the access road.
All right,
Al Freeman needed to do that right.
I know you haven't lived in the New York area long, but let's keep our traffic perspective in line at least a little bit. 10 to shoot. Yancey sets up Jones. Uncontested rebound for Nuni Ahmad. Traveled. He got tied up with Wainwright as he came down. When I said uncontested, I meant no Texas players were near Nuni Ahmad, but his own teammate in Wainwright enough to bump into him and force him off balance. Slides the pivot foot.
Left foot slid. Not much, but Steve Olson was staring at it. How about Nuni Ahmad? He started as a Division II player in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, then a JUCO, and now Big 12.
Motley the rebound off the Jacob Young miss. Foul called on Andrew Jones. That's his first. Baylor has won 12 of the last 19 matchups between themselves and Texas. That dates back to 2009 when they broke a 24-game losing streak.
Yeah, there's so many streaks that Baylor has ended since Scott Drew gave the wake up.
Freeman, nicely done off the window. Allen out of the double team to Yancey. Knocks down three.
Second basket this half. The ball has gone to the paint. That time to Allen, back out, and the perimeter guys, believe it or not, you get easier looks that way. That's what we call inside-out basketball or smart basketball.
Lindsay with the floater.
Oh, that was well done, Bob. You know what he did? He held on to the ball to see if he could hit Motley on the roll, and he kept it. There was no resistance. And he hit the little 8-footer. Really nicely done.
Young from the corner. That barely draws iron. He's been off all day.
Nice pass.
Motley with the finish. That's the foul.
What a look by Jake Lindsey. He threw that chest pass 40 feet. And it's because Motley runs the floor, does his work early. Look how deep Motley is, and the ball's barely over half court. James Banks will learn that you must meet the offensive player early. That's too deep, but a great find by Jake Lindsey, textbook.
So Lindsey goes to the bench. He has filled in ably for Manu Lacat, who is missing this afternoon's game. Motley in the second half already with 7 more points and 6 more rebounds. And if he ever came back, if Motley returned to this team next season, they would lose the Swiss Army knife player that Ish Wainwright is, but they would get this entire team back. They would be a preseason top 5, if not possibly preseason #1 in America.
They've already replaced Ish Wainwright with Jake Lindsey.
True.
Because LeConte is going to be the point guard, and Lindsey is like your Swiss Army knife, to your point. He and Wainwright, Lindsey and Wainwright, the best post feeders on this team.
Yancey draws contact. Couldn't get it to go. Motley the other way.
Look at Motley handle it.
Nuni Ahmad.
Good ball movement by Baylor.
Chucky Mitchell. That's no good. The long back tap with Al Freeman, and a fresh shot clock for Baylor.
Shaka Smart won an over the back call right there. If I'm Baylor right now, I'd use a little clock right here. They're even a little out of sorts. Run your offense.
Motley goes to Claire. Offensive foul called on Motley. That's a big call as we head to break. That's Motley's third. We'll see if he's
Harris.com.
Bob Wischusen and Fran Fraschilla back in Austin. Joe Lunardi is in the Infinity Bracket bunker, and this is the latest bracketology. The first 4 out, lurking is Kansas State. We're in Big 12 country, so we'll start right there. One of the best parts about working at ESPN, you're in the know. Right here on my phone, I've got the latest Joe Lunardi bracketology. Joe, these are great updates. It changes literally as the hours go by. Again, Big 12 perspective, let's start with Kansas State. Their win over Texas Tech. Where are they, in your opinion? What do they have to do in Kansas City to make it over the top and be in the field?
Well, I don't think today's win really helps or hurts them because Texas Tech wasn't going anywhere either at this point. Kansas State still hanging its hat on the big win at Baylor, as well as a home win over West Virginia. But I also look at their non-conference schedule strength as not very attractive. It's in the 225 range, not fatal, but still a bit of a warning sign. I think depending on the Big 12 bracket, the eventual conference tournament bracket, they need at least one, maybe two wins to get into the NCAA field because the bubble's starting to get a little bit more crowded with things today like a Vanderbilt winning and seemingly shoring up a spot.
Hey, Joe, Baylor's got 6 losses in the Big 12. You still have them as a 2 seed. That shows to me the strength of the league as well as their early conference, non-conference wins. How accurate am I?
I think you're dead on, and when you look at Baylor, as an example, Fran, I'm not very popular in Westwood, California these days because UCLA is still on the 3 line. But when you compare the overall body of work of a Baylor and a UCLA, it's not really even close. UCLA's non-conference, in spite of the great wins against Carolina and Kentucky, they had a lot of dogs on the schedule, whereas Baylor was playing everyone, everywhere, and winning. So, you know, if Baylor were to stumble in a game like this, yeah, we'll slide them down. But in my mind, their quality of resume is still extraordinarily good.
Talking to Joe Lenardi, Joey Brackets from the Infinity Bracket Bunker. And Joe, how about Duke, North Carolina tonight? How vital is that game for both of those teams? And depending on the outcome, where do you think that could alter how the committee is looking at where Duke and North Carolina are as they head towards the ACC championship?
Vital, of course, is a relative word because neither of those teams is going to be sweating out their Selection Sunday party. But I think a win for North Carolina essentially locks up a #1 seed for the Tar Heels. And then in the ACC tournament, if they were to win it, I believe they'd be playing for the #1 overall seed. I just can't imagine a scenario in which a double champion in that league this year, as deep as it is not #1 overall heading into the big tournament. For Duke, I think a #2 seed is their ceiling, but they would need to win tonight and at least get to the final of the ACC tournament up in Brooklyn this year for the first time in order to secure that. Right now, they're floating between a 3 and a 4.
Let's play what if, Joe. What if West Virginia wins the Big 12 tournament? How high could their seed end up being?
They're 4 right now. I don't see them getting past a 3, Fran. Again, you're talking about a team with one of the worst non-conference schedules among all of those competing for those prime spots on the top 4 lines. And history has not been very kind to teams like West Virginia or teams like UCLA, who are the 2 kind of poster children for scheduling a lot of cupcakes.
And Joe, one more question from me. As we head towards Champ Week and the major conference championship tournaments, what teams are on the bubble that could surprise folks? And what are the teams out there that you think no one's talking about right now that all of a sudden we could get to Selection Sunday and folks could say, whoa, where did they come from? How did they get in?
Well, I think a good example today was Vanderbilt getting the season sweep over Florida. We weren't talking about Vanderbilt at all a couple of weeks ago. Another team that's really come on strong of late is Providence in the Big East. They win again today. They weren't even in the field 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now suddenly they're the 3 seed in the Big East tournament. I always think there are 2 kinds of sleepers, guys. The teams from the major conferences that have kind of bumped along under the radar, and then, of course, you get your Northern Iowa or George Mason types out of a mid-major conference, and if you're looking for a team there, I still like Middle Tennessee State. They surprised Michigan State a year ago, and they're going to be in the field, it looks like, even if they don't win the Conference USA tournament. At least I think they should be in the field. And they're going to have a much better seed than the 15 they got a year ago. So if they can win a 15-2 game, why can't they win a 12-5 or a 11-6?
Joe, great stuff. We appreciate it. We'll be watching all during Champ Week and heading towards Selection Sunday. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
That's Joey Brackett's Joe Lenardi. That's a big three for King McClure that stabilizes this game a bit for Baylor as Texas have cut the lead down to 6. But crowd a couple times in the second half. Fran thinks the Horns have gotten the short end of the whistle.
Scott Drew went right back to his big guys, his guns, and got them back in the game as Texas made that really nice run. Really impressed with those sophomore guards today, McClure and Lindsey.
Shot clock down to 8.
You know, there's not going to be much drop-off next year with Baylor.
Offensive rebound. Claire, no, he was not able to corral it. And it ends up out of bounds in the corner. Over to Baylor. They've got the 55-46 lead. Under 8 minutes to go here in Austin.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Phillips 66. Proud sponsor, Big 12 basketball.
Frank Mason in contention for National Player of the Year. Josh Jackson among the best freshmen in the country. What I disagree with is, and I don't know who's voting. I think I'm a wooden voter, by the way, but I only vote once they get to the semifinals. But Monte Morris and Juwan Evans, how they're not among the 15 best players in the country. That's absurd to me.
Who would you take off the list?
I haven't seen it right now. I know this. Monte Morris is the most underrated player in college basketball this season. And it's only because of Iowa State's struggles midway through the Big 12 that he's not getting the same attention. When he was a sophomore, Seth Greenberg said he was the best point guard in the country. Now, there's some good freshmen, some other good players, but what he's done in his career, what he's done as a senior, you can't duplicate that. You cannot duplicate 8 assists and 1 turnover to go along with the 15, 16 points every night. So the fact that he's not on there, that's someone's been sleeping at the wheel.
Aaron Allen was just fouled by Jonathan Motley, and that's Motley's 4th. So with 7:23 to go, and Baylor in control of this game by 12. Mark the score. Let's see what Texas can do, because now the best player on the floor, you'd think, for either side, and a Wooden Award Final 15 player is headed to the bench with 4 fouls. Can Texas maybe make a run and make this a game in the last 7 minutes?
How about going inside now to Allen, who has had very few touches versus that zone in the second half? That would be a start. They had an opportunity right there.
Jack Clare trying to pin Lawal Achouil deep as well. Instead, it's a 3. That won't go for Jones. Here comes Wainwright. Bad possession for Texas there.
Ball has to go inside. You have to find a way to pass it inside. I mean, Bob, if you're a quality guard, you have to pass the ball inside. It's called a post feed, which is a lost art. Something Lindsey does well.
Lindsey dribbles himself into a double team here. Lawal Achouil drives it and scores as the shot clock expires.
That was the fake dunk scoop move. You see that? He was thinking of dunking it. He said, I got no chance.
There's the actual scoop move by Andrew Jones.
Big Joe looked like he was going to throw it down, and then he goes, I don't think I got enough air time here, so I'm going to scoop it.
Fran Fraschilla-esque.
A below the rim move that I have perfected in my day.
On the Nerf hoop. And that Texas needs some stops with 6 minutes to go.
Poised Baylor team, even without Motley. Won't take a lot of bad shots.
Lindsey buries a 3.
McClure set that up with great penetration. Clock running down. McClure made the second defender come. And Lindsey's really improved that outside shooting. Look at this.
Allen throws it away right to Lindsey. He'll go Roach. Find McClure trailing, but a foul called on Kerwin Roach. Last foul to give there for Texas.
Watch Big Joe, 7 feet. He's going to dunk it. I'm telling you, he's going to dunk it, Bob. Here he comes. Whoop. I don't think so.
Texas calls time with 5:35 to go. There's a Big 12 question for you during the timeout.
Sure.
You're an opposing coach.
Yep.
You've got potentially West Virginia in your side of the bracket. Or you've got an Oklahoma State, Iowa.
In the Big 12, there's not a lot of teams with size. West Virginia has some size, and they also have depth. You look at Kansas, and we've seen them this year. they don't have depth, and they can't afford Landon Lucas getting in foul trouble. So who's had big games against Kansas this year? Big guys.
Perfectly executed lob off the inbound for Baylor.
Good call by Scott Drew. You know, if I were Baylor, Bob, I mean this sincerely. I don't like to coach shill. I hope Scott Drew has a long-term deal and a great deal, because there are some jobs open this year that would actually fit him.
Awala Jawil called for the foul. Let's go back to the other end.
Yeah, this is great. They screen in. Here comes Nooney down the lane. Both big guys. Look at this offensive lineman pass blocking. Nooney's hanging on the rim. And one more time for effect. And if I were, you know, I'm just saying, if I were Mac Rose, the AD at Baylor, I would make sure I did everything I could not to let anybody steal my coach away from me. That's how good this guy is.
Jack Clare banks it home for Scott Drew. Are you charging him 5%?
I don't
7%,
like
10%.
I was thinking about that today in the shower. Honestly.
I'm not sure if I needed to know where you're thinking about
I'm just telling you, I was thinking with the jobs that are going to come open, right? And the way he develops his team and the way they have been consistently good, you would be foolish not to at least inquire as to his availability. And if you're Baylor, you lock him up with a lifetime deal.
And he's doing this now on the road, off the win against West Virginia without his point guard. Manu Lacan, obviously with the sprained ankle, has been out. All Jake Lindsey has done today with that last lay-in is notch a career-high 14 points. So it's now a 17-point Baylor lead with 4:48 to go. And this looks like a very prepared team in the huddle around their coach. And how about this tonight at 8:15 Eastern? A Sonic blockbuster. This time it's in Chapel Hill. Duke, North Carolina, closing out the ACC regular season with the rematch. Speaking of Duke, the Sonic blockbuster can also be seen streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Yep, there you see Trajan Langdon, former outstanding Duke guard. Had a great career, one of the great players to play in Europe over the course of his career. Now with the Brooklyn Nets, where Sean Marks runs the show. Trajan on his way to being a GM himself.
Trajan's doing his work this year if the Nets find a pick, because I believe they're only picking in the second round. Right now he'd have to be scouting for the Boston Celtics, I believe, to get all those ping pong balls that are little Celtics logos on them instead of little Nets logos on them the way that they should.
But you know what? You look at guys like Isaiah Thomas and Yogi Ferrell, this week's just got named the NBA West Conference Rookie of the Month, right? Undrafted. Isaiah Thomas, 60th pick. There are players out there, and that's why all these scouts are here today.
Wainwright called for the foul.
I honestly, you know, they ask me every year, and even our ESPN people, our programming people, how's Baylor going to be? Going to be good. They're going to be in the NCAA tournament. I'm telling you, doesn't matter if Motley leaves. They're going to be good again next year.
In and out from the wing for Isom.
How good have McClure and Lindsey been today as sophomores?
McClure down the lane. Lost it. And it goes over to Texas. 3:46 to go. Baylor, impressive on the road here in Austin, heading towards the Big 12 championship in Kansas City this coming week.
Thank you.
Imagine if the things you bought every day.
59-48, Bacon's been terrific. Just a reminder, coming up next, Frank Mason III and Kansas taking on Oklahoma State. Great college hoops continues. Back to Big Game Bob.
Adnan, thanks very much. Bracketology with Joe Lenardi, of course, predicts that not only Kansas will be a 1 seed, but they might be the #1 overall seed when we get to Selection Sunday. How about Big 12 Coach of the Year, even National Coach of the Year candidates from this league?
So many great coaching jobs this year, starting with Scott Drew and Huggins, obviously, Brad Underwood, but you know, the expectations are always high at Kansas. Bill Self sometimes get shortchanged in terms of Coach of the Year yearly. This year, in my mind, it's got to be him. They're playing with 7 guys. They've had injuries. They've had some distractions off the court. It's been an amazing season for the Kansas Jayhawks. They have been in more close games in the Big 12 than any year I can remember, and they have come up on the top end. This guy's done an incredible job. Remember, they had no votes in the preseason top 25, Baylor, but I'd give it to Bill Self. How about you?
I agree with Bill Self being the coach of the year, if for no other reason than I think there has been more that he has done without than people realize. And I think he deserves also to enjoy kind of the fruits of the labor of developing Frank Mason into the player that he's become, and really even turning Josh Jackson into what he's become this year. Remember back to the start of the season, a couple of games against big-time teams like Indiana, even in a loss, Carolina, when Frank Mason, at the end of games, as Lawal Achuil fouls out, just had to take it over. Because Josh Jackson was lost. He just didn't know his role, didn't really understand where he was on the floor, and Frank Mason, kind of with 5 minutes to go in those games, seemed to take the attitude of, don't worry, I've got it. How different does Josh Jackson look now than he did in those first handful of games for Kansas?
Well, I'll even go back to October when I watched 4 practices in October, and he was lost then, Bob, to your point. Didn't know when to attack, when not to attack. He's a different player, in part because he's a great player, and he's got the confidence of his coach, and not only Jackson, but how much has Landon Lucas improved, right? Devontae Graham. I think it's been a stellar coaching job from a guy who may be in the Hall of Fame at the Final Four, because Bill Self has been nominated to Naismith Hall of Fame, which would only make him the 5th Kansas head coach out of the 8 in the history of their program to go to the Hall of Fame. That's you know, I don't know about your math, because you went to Boston College, I went to Brooklyn College. My education was cheaper than yours.
Yeah.
But my math says that's a pretty good ratio, 5 out of 8.
It's better than 50%.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
We both went to BC.
There you go.
Now that I think about it.
Motley fouled on the drive. Shaq Claire and the crowd looking for a traveling call. Instead, Claire is hit with the hand check. And tonight, 8:15 Eastern, here on ESPN, Duke and Carolina in the Dean Dome. What a way to close out the ACC regular season. It's a sonic blockbuster. And can also be seen streaming live on the ESPN app. And watch ESPN. Of course, the Blue Devils won a tight one February 9th at Cameron. And now, in spite of the fact that ranked ahead of them and already, as you said, locking up the ACC regular season title is North Carolina. You know the Heels want to go into the postseason with a split against Duke. They don't want the season sweep.
Yeah, they have not swept North Carolina since 2009. It's not going to happen this year because obviously Duke won the first one. But how about Coach K? He's won 12 of the last 15, which, you know, Roy would love to change tonight in the Dean Dome.
And 5 of the last 7 for Duke on the road.
Yeah.
Nobody has an above 500 record against North Carolina at Chapel Hill other than Duke.
If you're looking for a little mini scouting report tonight, remember 13 of 27 is what Duke shot from behind the arc in game 1. So if you're Carolina, you can't let that happen. And if you're Roy Williams, you know Matt Jones is going to be glued to Justin Jackson. You got to find ways to get him open.
Texas with a pulse, down by 11, 2:42 to go, and here comes some full court pressure. Broken pretty easily by Baylor, and now Lindsay will work on the clock. Foul away from the ball as King McClure ends up on his rear end under the basket. So Shaq Claire is called for his 5th. So the senior on senior day here in Austin gets an earlier curtain call than he wanted as he is now fouled out with 14 points.
And that's nice. Year hasn't gone the way they wanted here in Austin, but the appreciation of a young man that transferred here, was on campus for 3, played for 2. And as I mentioned earlier, the players on this team and the coaching staff said terrific team leader. Run into so many great kids in the course of a season, Bob. You know, especially when you do a conference like we do and you get to know him. And Shaq Claire's a class young man out of Bahamas.
Missed free throw. Here comes Andrew Jones. Isom sets up Jones. Motley closed out. Jones drives instead. Motley's got the rebound. Motley held by Isom. 9 to shoot for Baylor.
How about winning today, coming in here, or not winning yet, but playing very well without Manu LeConte, the outstanding point guard who Scott Drew said he's going to do everything he could to rest him today, get him ready for next week.
Lindsay blocked. 3 to shoot for Baylor. Andrew Jones all over Jake Lindsay.
See if you got this is what we call a low clock play right here. What do you have? Usually it's something with a lob.
Here's McClure in the corner. Short. McClure ends up with the loose ball. Drives it in and comes up short.
McClure should have pulled that one out. They didn't need the points as much as they needed seconds off the clock.
Young. Yes, on the 3.
That's a 5-point play right there. More importantly, Baylor could have used about 20 more seconds of the game clock.
And now Young fouls Lindsay.
Well, King McClure has been really good today. Got that rebound. I bet Scott Drew's going to see if they mention it. Take a look now. You got the ball. You got the lead. This ball's going to come off. You have the 11-point lead. You don't need points right there if you could use some clock. And then Jacob Young comes down and nails the 3. This young guy had a great career at Olympus High School in Salt Lake City. Was recruited by Stanford, was recruited by Harvard. The bloodlines at Baylor. His dad played in the mid-'80s. We chose the Bears, and we're going to be talking about him the next couple of years, Bob.
Andrew Jones. Yes, for 3. 1:11 to go. Shaka Smart calls the timeout with his team down by 7.
You notice when Andrew Jones is in rhythm and he takes good shots, that ball looks like it's always going in. That's his 12th point in the second half. Smooth release. Defender's a little late. Take a look now. It's going to come off the screens. Ish Wainwright's a little hesitant. That's just a good rhythm shot by the freshman from Irving.
Well, Andrew Jones made the most of his opportunity once Tevin Mack, the leading scorer at the time for Texas, was suspended after 15 games. Jones stepped in, and in the last 15 games, he's averaged 13 points, 4.5 assists, 4 rebounds per game. Basically, since Mack was suspended and now has left the program, Andrew Jones got the lion's share of those minutes and that role in this offense. And as a freshman, has established himself as a player with one of the brighter futures you would think in the Big 12.
Every one of those Texas guards returning. Roach, Young, Davis, Jones. They need to live in the gym this offseason. They need to hone their basketball skills. They're an athletic group, but they can get better.
Motley to Freeman this time. The reverse goes.
How about Motley? 6'10", running the break. Off the press O.
Jones at Motley. Comes up short with the left hand. And a foul called on Mo Isom. So that will put Freeman at the line at the other end. If Baylor can hold on, they would be the 3 seed in the Big 12 championship in Kansas City. It will start Wednesday with the first 2 games, and then on Thursday, Baylor would be as the 3 seed on the opposite side of the bracket for Kansas. And certainly, you'd have to think that if you're going to eventually face KU in the Big 12 championship, why not be in the championship game when you meet Bill Self's team?
Or hope that one of those other teams on the other side of the bracket knock Kansas off, which has happened on more than one occasion, even in the years they've won the regular season title.
So it looks like it will be Oklahoma State, Iowa State as a quarterfinal matchup, as Young tries to go coast to coast and does. Still a timeout left for Texas. They set up their full court pressure. As he gets it across, and now you have to foul.
Yeah, when you have Wainwright and Lindsey out there, you have two very secure ball handlers.
There's not enough time here for Texas if they have any hope to allow this much time to come off the clock.
Exactly. They should have fouled him a while ago, Bob. And in fact, they're just playing it out now.
Now no point with 7 on the shot clock. Now Young fouls Freeman with 3 to shoot, 15.5 seconds to go in the game.
And I think that was a situation of Shaka Smart kind of coaching like an NBA coach and saying, let's warm up the bus even though we're at home. Or the van back to the dorms and the apartments. Yeah.
So now a little curtain call for the seniors as Kendall Yancey and Mo Isom will join Shaq Claire on senior day, getting to walk off the floor for the final time here at the Irwin Center. Freeman tacks on one more, an 11-point lead for Baylor. And Freeman has 8 as Young launches one. Motley, one more rebound for the Bears, and he will dribble out the rest of the clock. And Baylor will get a regular season closing win. 25 wins on the year now for the Bears. 75-64 is the final. And how about the numbers, Fran, that Baylor continues to notch under Scott Drew, as they have now reached a record-tying 12 Big 12 wins once again. And he has turned this program into something it just never was before he arrived.
Yeah, the biggest number now for Baylor is, can they hold on to a 2 seed? And we will see in Kansas City, Bob. We're going to have incredible action starting with Wednesday night, and I can't wait to get there.
An impressive win without their point guard as well. Manu LeConte with the sprained ankle, unable to play. So Scott Drew puts Jake Lindsey and King McClure out there as a ball handling combination, and they were tremendous. Baylor wins at 75-64. Next stop for both of these teams, the Big 12 championship, and Kansas